My name's Carmen Papalia, and I'm artist in residence at the Victoria and Albert Museum through a partnership with Shape Arts. And tonight I'm going to perform a work in a series called Mobility Device. The idea behind this performance, it really started when I started visiting the museum as a resident artist, and I realized that it was just such a massive space and it was so difficult to navigate independently.
So this next space?
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really wanted to make a work about my movement through the different galleries in the museum with agency and independently. Mobility Device is a project series in which I replace my cane with some other system for my mobility. Tonight I'm going to replace my white cane with Alison Craig, who is a Foley sound artist for the BBC. Yeah. Those are great. No, what you did just there with the that was great. I like those little kind of flourishes that you can add in the moment. So
Carmen was quite keen to work with a Foley artist, and Fiona from Shape put him in touch with me, and I work for the BBC in radio, and it's actually called Spot, the Foley work in radio, which is sound effects basically.
There's an aspect of it that I feel anxiety knowing that I'm going to be blindfolded, and this was an exchange of trust between Alison and I was kind of like trusting her to curate sound in such a way to guide me through the museum.
We set it up so that he would establish the parameters of the piece. So in the very first gallery, he just walks around with his cane. And then he ditches his cane, and as we walk into the second gallery, we decided to use a series of alarms as if he was actually going to touch the objects.
The concept behind it was to get a museum security, and so each time I approach an obstacle or an object, an alarm sound will go off to indicate my closeness to that object.
Carmen was quite keen on me using as much spot or Foley effects as I could. Between each rooms we had that effect of a doorbell and a latch that would open and allow him into the next space.
So with each gallery, Alison and I co-developed like a sound palette that related to either objects in the room or perhaps like the layout of the room. One of the galleries that included a painting that was a seascape, we essentially exploded that detail out into an entire soundscape that occupies the gallery space. And this ranged from the bell that you might hear from a boat.
We had a wind machine, we had flapping sails, we had rain effect, we had all sorts of elements. Then when we went into the next space, which had pictures of animals, we gave out birds to people in the audience for them to provide an ambience of bird song. Whenever he went near objects or glass cases, I would flap a pair of gloves, which is a Foley trick for when you're recreating the sounds of bird wings. And I was squawking like a mad one on this Acme squawker that I had that sounds like a crow. At the very end of that gallery, there's a big picture of horses, and I set up a bridle and some coconut shells, the old cod Foley trick. And we did those sound effects as he approached the horse picture.
The room with more animal sounds and bird sounds, I was just really enjoying kind of spending time with each sound-making individual and kind of surveying the room. But there was also points at which that I was stuck in a room and I couldn't find my way out. was really chaotic and you know, it made me anxious.
Carmen decided that he wanted to characterise this room with slapstick and comedy sound effects.
Our methodology ranged from something like that to another gallery that included this island of benches that just kind of occupied the middle of this gallery space, and essentially we just had a pile of balloons on this island of benches that would explode once I got close to them.
One of the nice things about doing this piece with the audience was that they were able to play some of the effects and take part in the piece. People were around the edges applauding or clapping whenever he got near to the walls or to the objects.
And there were points as well where I would recognize the sounds of Alison's movement, and I would follow them, and we would kind of play together, and she would guide me, and so both the sounds would illustrate my movement but also inform my choices.
In the very final room is the silver room with lots of metal objects, and we gave everybody out some metal to bang together.
I really got a sense of how sound should have worked to guide my movement and to offer a sense of place, and I kind of like could establish the perimeter of the space. In some ways, like I was playing the sound performers by rushing toward them, but also they were playing me in some ways.
He was increasing his speed, and as he was increasing his speed, we were increasing the intensity of the banging.
This is one in a series of performances called Mobility Device, in which I replaced my white cane with another system for my mobility. And this has been like a long process for me since I started using a white cane. It's really something that I feel like I'm going to continue to do. Yeah, I mean, I think there's more to come. It's an experiment that I want to return to.